Hello, my name is Sawrey. I'm super happy to be presenting here at Write the Docs Prague conference. I come from Kyiv, Ukraine. I'm a technical writer, copywriter, copy editor, and translator with over 17 years of experience. I worked in planetarium, full dome shows, hardware, software, multimedia and show business, data security. Some of my larger recent clients included telecom industry and data engineering. My colleagues often ask me, how can you start freelancing like as a technical writer? Because it's quite clear how to do it if you're a copywriter or developer, so you write some article or you develop a plugin or some piece of code, but how to do it as a tech writer? And the thing is, the mechanics are all the same, and I'm not going to try to teach you how to do your job in this talk. I'm just going to provide you with the tools that will help you to start freelancing legally, make sure you can do it, make sure you're protected, make sure that you can set proper rates and receive send those invoices and receive the money into your bank account. So let's start. But before we begin, I wanted to address the notion of hustle. Like when I submitted the topic of this conference, I got asked, like, maybe you would like to remove hustle from the title because like negative connotation, but you know what? Yeah, hustle actually has negative connotation. Hustle means that you sleep less, you enjoy your life less, you maybe doom scroll less on Twitter, but at the same time, it's a means to an end. Like it doesn't mean that you need to start hustling start freelance on the side, leave your job and do something terrible to yourself, work 24/7, burnout. No. First of all, I wanted to say that to me, hustling on the side, freelancing is a way to add to my experience as a pro and to contribute better to my main employer. And also, hustling means that you set some kind of goal to develop a skill, practice it, to master and work with some technology, or maybe to reach a monetary goal, who knows, but it doesn't mean that it has to become your hustle work style. No way. So while hustle is obviously less sleep, less free time, less all that, it's also more experience, more pretty nice looking points on your CV, and more money. It allows you to battle test your skills and keep the skills that you're not practicing right now at your main job, but still practice them, or maybe, as I said, learn a technology and with having no way to implement it where you currently are, still find clients and use the technology with them, grow as a professional as a result. You become a T-shaped professional, and as a result, you're more valuable where you are. So, as again, additional money didn't hurt anyone. And also, hustling means that you can acquire the best of both worlds. It might seem like something out of fantasy, but still I think that you can bring in something that you're missing with your current employer, but do not want to jump into headfirst full-time into your current working arrangements. For example, there is a talk by Barbara Sher. Coincidentally, the talk was held at TEDx Prague. So Barbara Sher is the author of Witchcraft book about bridging the gap between your dreams and where you want to be, so kind of doing more what you love. So she had this talk on the power of your community, and the man stood up. He said, you know what, like power community is cool, but I'm an accountant and I want to be a cowboy. And how do you become a cowboy when you're an accountant and you do not want to leave your day job, right? And another person stood in the audience and they said, you know what, my boss, he is a cowboy ranch owner and he's looking for an accountant. And the thing is, he doesn't want to hire somebody remote. He doesn't believe in remote. He wants somebody to come, stay and live there on the ranch and only do the taxes like maybe a couple of days per year. But he wants the person to be there. And guess what? That man who wanted to be a cowboy, he tried and he ended up moving to the ranch. He is now transferred his full-time job to remote arrangement. So he kept it. He did not quit. And after work, he gets to be cowboy, and he is only needed as a proper accountant on the ranch a couple of days per year, which I think is a dream scenario. And it would be like too good to be true if I weren't walking and talking proof of a very similar situation. Like me, I'm a musician, so while working in data security, I love data security and I love the job, but I still wanted to add something from show business, music, guitars into my day-to-day. And guess what? I found a freelance gig as working for companies that manufactures digital guitars, synthesizers, MIDI controllers. So here is actually the picture of my cat starring in an ad for that guitar. So this is how I brought both what I loved into my life, both data security and guitar playing, so that everything is possible if you dedicate enough time to find the right side gig for you. So if you manage to find something that actually adds to your life and not just takes away your hours that you could have dedicated to rest, then hustle becomes just a small addition to your work day. So to recall, tomorrow will show what's hustle if not work day persevering, right? I also want to add a note, re-quoted from a tweet by Lauren Tech, with her permission. So you know what's better than hustle? It's sleep, brain breaks, and not burning out. And I can assure that burnout is a sneaky thing that creeps up on you and makes you just despise tech, despise basically any jobs you were doing if you drive yourself hard enough, too often and too fast. So do not work yourself to the bone. The rewards are progressively diminishing in this way. So take proper breaks, take some time to rest and recharge, because otherwise, I've also been a victim of burnout. You know, back in 2016, I was working just too much, too hard, and when I quit that working arrangement, I ended up for 6 months working as a bass player in the worst and the seediest blues cover band you could imagine, playing the seediest and the most horrible bars and pubs and all that. I just couldn't bring myself to touch technology again. So this was a pretty dark place to be at the time. I do not recommend it to anyone. The summary here: hustle is hard but rewarding. There are many opportunities that you can seize as a technical writer or as any other tech pro who wants to freelance. Misery while hustling is optional if you pick your battles carefully. And you also get extra knowledge, extra money, extra practice, and starting to freelance does not at all mean that you want to quit your job. Quite on the contrary. So okay, part 2, let's get started. Before you can hustle or freelance and do that legally, you need to have a permission to hustle, and that doesn't mean that you need to go approach your boss and say, "Hi boss, I want to start freelancing." Most likely the reaction you're going to get will not be the best or the one you expect. What I mean is that you need to go and read your working contract, the one you signed, or if you're just entering some arrangement of a full-time job, you need to read that contract carefully and make sure that the non-compete clause is worded in such a way that does not really prevent you from working anytime in tech anywhere for the next 5 years. What I mean is that often the contracts described in with what type of technology and for what companies working in which field you're not allowed to work after you leave this company or while you're working for that company. This also means the types of work you can do on the site. So for example, if you're a president of Ukraine, you're only allowed to hustle as a writer or as an artist or a musician. Similarly, as a pro working for some company, you might be allowed to do some consultant work but not writing work, or vice versa. So you go and read your contract agreements, and again, from experience, if I read the contract agreement while I was just entering into a work arrangement with some company, full-time or part-time, If I disliked something in the non-compete clause, or if I wanted it clarified or reworded, it was usually met in a very good way, so we could always reach a fruitful arrangement that benefited both me and the client. So just go for it and negotiate for yourself. Again, there is another paper that you probably signed for your job. It's called the NDA, Non-Disclosure Agreement. It means that whatever happens between your client, your employer, stays between you and your employer. Similarly goes like if you do anything, so you be much better off not talking about it to anyone, like anyone at all, even your mom, even your partner. For example, me working in tech, freelancing a lot, my partner has no idea who I work for and mostly even what I do, just like this very broad description of I'm doing technical writing stuff. And my partner is also working in tech and I have no idea about their clients or the type of work that they do, except that it's developing something. I'm not going to cover that here, but also if it's allowed in your country, if it's possible, I do encourage you to at least shop around for and find out the prices for your health insurance, because being able to afford it, even if you're not working full-time for anyone, is a very, very nice way to leverage your work, because in my opinion, you always do your best work when you choose to arrive to work every day, when you choose to be there, and not because you're staying with your company for the sake of health insurance or some other benefits. But we'll touch upon that later. So, taxes and regulations. This means that to be able to pay taxes, you need to be able to register your work as a freelancer in a viable way where you are in your country. So you need to be some kind of legal entity who freelances and pays taxes. That means that you can be a registered solopreneur, you can be a private entrepreneur. Me, for example, I'm a private entrepreneur in Ukraine. You can register your own company like LLC, or another, if you expect to bring enough profit. And there is another thing that you can do. You can register a company as a digital resident of different country. For example, and again, here just listen to what I say, but consult a tax lawyer first before you do anything, before you try this at home, right? So in Estonia, you can register an OOO company. It's basically very similar to an LLC, and work as that OOO and pay next to zero taxes, at least until you reach a certain income threshold. Again, please consult your tax lawyer, but there are many options to register yourself as a freelancer, and stay assured that you will not have any legal troubles with paying taxes later. So this is basically what I was talking about before. You need to have your tax lawyer, your accountant, preferably a personal banker as a banker you're banking with for your freelance stuff, or, it doesn't mean that you actually need to hire them, but I recommend that you consult with such people, such professionals whenever you have questions, or at least once per quarter, maybe once per 6 months, to audit the health of your overall freelancing undertaking, because it's really easy to miss some regulation or forget about some tax or fine or something like that. So the summary here is, first of all, read what you're signing, negotiate for better conditions, and consult a lawyer often, and also pay taxes. So let's get into the more interesting stuff on finding work. But to be honest with you, I actually wanted to add the finding work chapter as a part of the previous chapter, because it really takes just about the client to fill all of your free time if you freelance as a tech writer. Because it takes up so much more time and research than doing, for example, copywriting articles, for me personally. When looking for freelance work, first thing that probably comes to mind is freelance websites like Upwork and Freelancer, but me, I do not recommend either of those websites because like I used to freelance as a translator for Upwork, and I found this to be less than optimal in many accounts. But again, that's a personal view on Upwork. It's a pretty good resource to find work when you're just starting out. As for freelancer.com, I don't recommend anyone using it because it's either you get scammed out of your time spent on a project and never get paid, or you work for utter peanuts, and that's absolutely not optimal. What I recommend instead is that you reach out to your network. Go to Twitter, follow people in our industry, tech writers, other tech pros, pros from the industry that you're working in or are interested in, and look out for job postings. That doesn't mean that you need to quit and reapply to a different job. No, that means that there is an opportunity to freelance and consult for those people too. There are also Slack and Telegram communities. For example, there is a jobs or vacancies channel in Write the Docs Slack, and it's possible to find part-time and freelance opportunities there. Absolutely. Similarly goes for Telegram communities. In Ukraine, we have a Telegram channel called Technical Writers of Ukraine. There are also many entries on part-time and full-time work there. There are also like hidden and closed communities, for example, niche communities like diversity, minority communities, maybe some esoteric tech fields that do not have many people working for that, like some special fields of cybersecurity or data engineering. There are Facebook groups like, for example, I really love the UI UX writers of Facebook or something like that. It has both work opportunities and very useful educational stuff. There are digital nomads communities because many digital nomads work in tech. And there are also virtual job fairs. For example, Write the Docs conference has a virtual job fair. And if you visit any other online or offline conference, there are likely to be also job fairs, and it's pretty good to just visit those job fairs and make yourself put yourself on the map of people who are available for freelance and consulting work, because usually that's how better job opportunities are found, not through cold emails but through some personal touch. Next, I recommend that you have your own swipe file. Like copywriters have a swipe file of things that work, some turns of phrase or some formulas. I recommend that you have your swipe file of links collected from the companies that you would like to consult, work full-time, part-time at some point in time, maybe a very remote point in time. So just collect their vacancies, hiring, all those kinds of work pages from their website into your own job board, and revisit those links often, because you might suddenly spot something where you can be the best match to do some one-off projects that may lead to amazing things, both like making you a super skilled pro where you are, or advancing your career wherever. Okay, the next point is a portfolio. You need to maintain it. Copywriters all do that, but as technical writers, I realize that it can be pretty hard because docs tend to change from release to release, and especially if there is no versioning between the releases, everything changes so fast. So how do you maintain a portfolio if you have already left that client or that full-time employment and you still want to include that in your portfolio? So what I do when somebody asks for a portfolio of that kind, an open knowledge base that's updated often, I link them to the knowledge base, of course, if it's a public knowledge base, and I say that I work on this from this date to this date, and I still expect 40-50% of that to be written by me. And then I recommend that you look through what's available out there in that knowledge base and see if there are places that are still mostly unchanged. So link to those pages specifically and say these are pages written by me in this whole context. If there are some guides or screenshotable, printable stuff, do that. Screenshot it, print it, save it. But by all means, if you're sending it out to potential clients, Anonymize any sensitive information that might be in there. Maybe a screenshot that still, for some reason, features an IP or some creds or some very sensitive info or internal guides. You can send out internal guides as part of your portfolio, but as long as you have anonymized and blocked out and blurred out everything that is sensitive regarding the inner workings of the client that you created the guide for. So you need to save all your clippings, printouts, and anonymize it all before you send it out. Summary here would be, first of all, forget about freelancing websites. Reach out to your network, reach out to hidden communities, maintain your personal swipe file, and keep your portfolio organized and anonymized for the sake of not leaking external information to external agents. Okay. Part 4, freelancing proper. The first and the most important one is to have your own machine to work on. This picture displays my very much covered in stickers 2 pretty basic laptops that I work on, because it might be illegal in your country, it might be dubious from the ethical standpoint, but many work agreements stated clearly that whatever you create on the computer provided to you by your full-time employer or short-time client, whatever you create there belongs to the person who provides the tech to you. So what I recommend to you is never freelance on your work machine, have your own separate one. It doesn't have to be a fancy machine, just something that will allow you to get the work done. Again, keep your accounts separate. I recommend actually dedicating a browser per client. As I said, it takes just 1 or 2 clients to fill all your free time. So keep several separate browsers on your computer and work from that. Also keep your accounts separate. Make sure not to leak information between the accounts. Make sure not to share what does not needs to be shared. And please be mindful that it's really useful to have one single entry point, your Gmail address, that kind of your work personal address that everyone can know. People can pass on to each other if they want to work with you, but the rest of the accounts should be provided to you by the people who want to work with you, if that G Suite accounts, I mean. Freelancing ethics is pretty straightforward ordeal. Again, one way or another, maybe not the exact clients that you're freelance for, maybe not the exact project, but people will find out that you're freelance one way or another, unless you want to keep it super secret. But then you cannot know if your clients will not want to either talk to you about you or to somebody else in a good or a bad way. So people will find out about your hustle, and what I recommend is that you do is that you do not work for clients who you consider to be evil. Do not do evil stuff, do not work for people who you consider to be doing things that you don't like. And there is just one exception from this rule, that when you really want to work on some project, but if it ever becomes known that you worked on the project, it will put you in danger. For example, let's say some social project, some political thing that you really want to support, and you realize from the depths of your heart that yes, it's the right way to do it, you want to do it, but you do not want anyone to find out that you did it. In this case, you may, as the other side, to actually sign your own NDA that you provide to them, which means that party will sign NDA, and they will not be legally able to disclose who did this thing for them. So I did it once. I can say that it works, and I can recommend it. And freelancing in a whole, again, I want to state it again, that you freelance does not mean that you want to leave your day job at all. The thing that you freelance is just having more diverse source of income. It's an ability to actually support your ideas without the fear that even the things are not ideal to main job, but you will not be afraid to end up in the street without a job, without house insurance, if you're suddenly try to push your vision too far. You will be able to actually support your bold ideas. So I find that it provides a lot of freedom when you, first of all, as a freelancing person, you know that you choose to keep showing up to your day job because you like it, you want to be there, you want to dedicate that much time to this very cause every day, and freelancing is only freelancing. But on the other hand, if the things are not ideal with your main employer, you always know that you can quit. And again, you choose to show up. You choose to do the thing for whatever reason, but you still choose to do it. And you always have the option of taking it easy, taking it slow, and just not quit and go nowhere, but quit and still keep freelancing. So I find that to be a really empowering leverage in my work. I'm pretty sure that whoever I work for full-time, I choose to work with them full-time and they know it. Summary here would be, again, divide and conquer your devices, your accounts. Do no evil, do not work for companies and people who you consider to be evil, non-ethical for whatever reasons. And embrace the safety net, that side income and side experience that freelancing provides to you. And also remember your purpose, why you keep showing up to a certain job every day and dedicate 8 hours per day during the work week to that very cause. So, part 5, getting paid. Rates. I'm going to teach you one trick I learned somewhere online about never undercharging yourself ever again. When you're approached by somebody offering you to freelance on some project, your answer should be this. Yeah, sounds great. What's your budget? And here you have the ball rolling on their side instantly. It does not leave you guessing, oh, should I charge more or less? Maybe I will scare them away, or maybe I'm just charging too little and they'll be afraid to work with me for that reason. No, you just get the ball rolling on their side. What's your budget? And they are now compelled to tell you. If they start playing games, you know that you do not want to take on that job. That's it. Also, I'm a firm believer in GRR in reverse gear arbitrage, meaning that you need to be paid for the value you bring, not to be paid less because you live somewhere in the world that nobody maybe even heard of. So what I mean is that if you live in a lower cost of life area, it doesn't mean that you must be paid just very little. No, you must be compensated according to the value you provide to the companies that hires you, either that's a full-time, part-time, freelance job, whatever. Just not undercut yourself. Contract agreements. If the English language is not the main language in your country where you are, then you need to translate your contract agreements into your language and the English language, or whatever the language that the client you're dealing with uses for their legal paperwork. I learned this the hard way because it's not always demanded of freelancers, private entrepreneurs here, but at some point I had very urgently to translate a 15-page legal agreement into the Ukrainian language because my bank suddenly refused to release the money into my account, the money that they have already received from my client. Same goes for invoicing. You need to provide an invoice in both the language of your client and the language that's used legally where you live. And I also recommend that you have a template, your own template in 2 languages for both the contract agreements and the invoicing part of your freelancing. Also make sure to include every little tiny detail into your invoice because you do not know what part of the info might become crucial for the other party to be able to pay you. I'll just return to it in about a minute. Banking. It's very important to choose a bank that will be supportive of you as a freelancing entity. For example, I used to primarily bank with a bank that wanted everything printed out, signed by hand, delivered to them in person. That was just such a drag. So I switched over most of my banking in freelancing to a different bank who are pretty okay with being everything remote. I have never seen them in person, and whenever I really need to print out something and sign it by hand in blue ink, then the overnight delivery works just fine for that purpose. So I'm still with the first bank. Why? Because you also need to shop around for services and benefits. And the first bank who was so picky about doing everything in person, I still do the minimal amount of work with them to be able to make use of their MasterCard benefits and really cheap banking services that I would have paid a lot with any other different bank. Okay, and here we return to things that you need to include in your invoice. Banking means that money gets transferred from an account to an account, and sometimes the details between those accounts do not really match, or something gets eaten up by a commission. So, for example, if you receive a Swift payment, there will be a small commission, but it will still be a different sum from the one that you put into your invoice unless you factor the Swift commission in. So, what I recommend that you do is you include a clause that says, I agree to incur all the commissions on my side. Here again, it might be not possible in your case to consult your tax lawyer, but that's what I do, and I have no issue with the sum that actually enters my account being slightly different from what's in my invoice. It's a smaller amount. Again, I learned the hard way that some countries do not really operate from the standpoint of international banking account number. So somewhere in some places it's enough just to know your full legal name under which you're freelance and the context of your bank, and that's it. So twice the IBAN number got lost somewhere between the parties, so the paying client had to update their Swift transaction to be able to deliver my banking number to my bank. So the bank already had the money, but they couldn't release it into my account because my account number wasn't specified. Also, it was clearly stated it was from such and such company to such and such person. And also payment processors, first of all, some might need some esoteric part of information like a zip code that I had to email in the middle of the night once, and then some banks also may decide that when you receive money via payment processor from a private person, that they will not receive it. I had this funny situation when I was to receive a payment from a client from the EU, and it was the money were transferred via a payment processor, but from a private person, so it was just a person's name as a sender. And my bank was super against it, and I had to put the person's name, well, we agreed to do it in all caps because it sounded a bit like exotic here, so as to pretend that it was actually a company sending money to me, and well, the payment got through. So sometimes you need to be really creative to get paid. So summary here is to negotiate prices and figure out what's your budget first. Choose your bank carefully, shop around for the benefits and extra services that it can provide to you, and include all the details you can think of into your invoices. So the pre-summary, the pre-grand summary for this whole talk is, yes, you as a technical writer or any other tech professional can freelance, and now you're armed with the basics of tools that will allow you to start freelancing legally and with least pitfalls and underwater stones that I had to encounter when I was just starting out. I didn't know I know this. The grand summary here would be, first of all, whenever in doubt, consult your lawyer, negotiate everything, conditions, payment rates, avoid burnout, believe in yourself because you're a pro, and consult a tax lawyer. Again, consult a lawyer always. So good luck with freelancing. And thank you so much for watching this talk. It was again a great honor to speak at Write the Docs Prague. Let's get in touch. I suspect that right now I'm answering your question in the chat, but if you have any further questions, please reach out to me. This is the handles that I have on Twitter, Gmail, Instagram. I'll be happy to answer any question that you might have. This is it, and goodbye and good luck.
Thank you again for being so engaged in our chat with all the questions that did pop up. I figured we could revisit some of those questions, particularly the questions about T-shaped skills and what that refers to.
Yeah, sure. I did not coin this term. Well, a Well, usually, previously the industry expected us to develop one core competence, like like a straight line. So you become a pro at something, and a T-shaped person who has this one line, and then they decide to go deeper, still on some other issues. So you basically end up with a T. So you have one core competence, then another core competence extended. There are also like different letters popping up right here, right now. I think like M shape, so different core competencies. And I think that the gig economy is upon us, and that's almost a natural thing to do, to have at least like two different competencies. I see it pop up a lot on Twitter, how people actually recommend, they even go further than my talk, they recommend to develop one like tech skill and one skill that would be useful even in the situation of a total outage of everything internet related. Like woodcrafting or something, I don't know, knitting, sewing, something like that.
Interesting. I saw that Coley had shared a link about the same concept, so I'll go ahead and copy and
Yeah.
paste that link in our chat. And Kate
Yeah.
had also mentioned, I mean, it's funny, you mentioned sometimes you may take the shape of a different letter, like an M, but I think if I read Kate's comment correctly, that you may start with the T, and then at certain point you may branch out and start another T. So I'm trying to picture that.
Yeah, probably. I think I heard about like Y-shaped person, M-shaped. There are well, the T-shaped personality was the original term for a person with two semi-related core competences.
Okay. Michael had also asked, more questions. In regards to the T-shaped concept, I understand that you need to do, or you need to have T-shaped knowledge in your domain, but it seems like you also need T-shaped knowledge in terms of running a business. Is there like a obtained by freelancer communities?
I'm not sure there can be an actual cheat sheet on the general recommendations like I have provided, because like as I said, go hire a lawyer, or not hire, at least find a lawyer and go consult with them at least once per quarter, maybe once per 6 months, because every country will have different tax regulations, different laws, different things you need to be mindful of when you start freelancing. But yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm running my own company, but like from the legal standpoint, I actually am running my own company. Like I'm registered as a private entrepreneur, and I am legally allowed to hire staff. I do not hire people because it brings other tax complications. But yeah, and I wrote it in the chat that sometimes I'm hysterical during the 30th, the 31st date of the month, because it's usually me taking all this free time just filing invoices. And sometimes I also mentioned it can be like some clients may ask you if you, for example, provided both like screenshots, you edited screenshots for an article, and then you provided a hugely technical blog post, and they ask you, please file it separately. So you end up having 5-6 invoices for like $400. Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I've tried freelancing for a couple of years, and I set up a company that was based in California in the US. And at this point, I'm working full time for somebody else's company in Europe. But that was a lot of work. I really struggled with even just making the time and finding the motivation to issue invoices.
I get it. Well, me, I'm not. Well, sometimes at some points of my life, I was a full-time freelancer. I have not been a full-time freelancer for a long time now. Maybe like just that short stretch in 2020 that I mentioned. I usually have my full-time employer or a full-time client that I work 40 hours per week for. Everything else happens on the side, as I mentioned. So that's negotiated when I just enter a contract agreement. I say that I do not promise to be freelancing every day, every hours that I'm not working for you, but I do take on additional clients to do some consulting or some writing or something, because like I cannot sit still. You see, like guitars and all stuff. Even if I'm not writing, I'm still going to get busy with something. So I think it's, as I said, it's more beneficial for my main employer for me to be freelancing on something that I will be able to implement in my workplace later, to learn some technology or to approach something from the point of view that we did not consider, and then I tried it somewhere else, it worked fine, and we can also try something like that. So it makes me more useful for my main employer.
That's a really good way to frame it. Yeah. I think I will read some of the questions that have more to do with the practical side of things. Another question from Michael. He just said, "Sorry, Karen, did you say that you assume the commission costs or that your client does?"
I do. Well, from
You do.
Ukrainian standpoint, Ukrainian laws, yes. My tax lawyer actually told me that when I was regularly like 50 euros short in my invoices, and it was just a
Oof.
nightmare. It's considerably small amount, but it just my whatever came into my bank account did not match my invoice, and that's a bad thing to happen. So in the end, I realized it was a Swift commission. We figured out with my bank. So now I just add this one line to my invoices. Like I agreed to incur all the commissions. But I still pay the tax on the original sum that's in the invoice. So yes, that's a bit of a loss on my side, but still, that's how you work. You take losses, you pay taxes. That's okay.
Sounds fun. We have a question from Eve. Eve had mentioned that freelance and tech writing seems a hard challenge, to be honest. It takes a lot of time to learn how to work with a specific product, and only then do I feel that you can write about it. Or you need to be specialized in a specific area and find companies who use the same technology. What are your thoughts?
It's both, which is why I said, like, when I was freelancing as just a content writer, yes, you need to be content for clients all the time because it's short article, short turnaround. You finish it, you get paid, you find another client. And with tech writing, it's not like that. So you find, as I said, 1 or 2 clients on the site will fill all your free time because you will need to do the research to see the writing guidelines, to be able to actually see the screenshot guidelines, all that. So yes, that's harder to be freelancing as a technical writer, but that usually brings you longer term contracts, higher pay, and more experience. As for there is another approach, like as I said, I also do very deeply technical blog posts for different clients. So that's a bit easier. That's a bit like content, but still, like usual content writing will take you shorter times than doing a deeply technical research on some mind-blowing topic.
I'm trying to think of whether the letter T applies to that that description, going deep or writing more marketing content or something similar to it.
Yeah, sorry, I wanted to say, like, everyone on the chat, you lovely people, I see all the questions. I just have both the hands and the brain capacity to be talking and writing at the same time. And a huge hello to everyone from Ukraine. I see people from my country in there in the chat. Yeah,
Yes,
sorry,
I think
sorry.
Irina had posted in there, and we do have a new organizer on our team, Kate Osachenko. I think you've been talking about setting up a Kiev meetup, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe one more question before we have to leave for Anita's talk.
Sure.
Rob's question and my note, hustling is not for everybody, and everybody's wired differently. So maybe on that note, I'll read Rob's question. He had asked, if you want to have side tech writing gigs or hustles, how do you manage your main job, your personal life, and do additional work that you have to run yourself?
Top priority is my full-time job, of course, always. Then I usually take an hour or so to wind down. My partner also works in tech, so they usually hustle and grind in the next room. Also, so it helps a lot to have a partner who works in a similar field and has a similar workload. Yes, as sometimes it feels pretty lonely, like friends are going out having fun and me at home working, but that's rewarding in the end for me. Because like financial freedom, that freedom to step away from the jobs that you do not love, that you do not even go to the point where you hate a job, or you go to the point where you realize you do not love the current employment or arrangement and you want to do something else, and you're still able to stay with the current employer as a freelancer part-time until somebody else comes along, and you're still be able to be open to new opportunities at the same time. So yes, it gives you a huge freedom.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you everybody for the questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen.
Yes, if you have more questions, please reach out to me on Twitter. It was everywhere in the talk, so it's basically my name without vowels. So see you there. I'll be happy to talk to you. Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers.